Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in learning just a little bit more of Chinese expression a day. And these are set phrases that are often used. I cannot say often because some of them are not so frequently used, but 俯首听命 was one of them that could be used in certain contexts. That means you're following the orders from the above, the leader of the country, totally depicted in this mean kind of hierarchical societal order, right? It's from the tip, without thinking head, like you basically lose your brain and just blindly follow the order, and that's submissive. And I translate. So today we have another 俯首 bend head again. 俯首甘为孺子牛. So 俯首甘为孺子牛, if you see, okay, it's 7 characters. That means it came from a poem, because in ancient Chinese poems, unlike English or other sound-based language, because you have small words, you have to make meaning, make it grammatically correct. You have all those filler words in, and so you cannot really control the length, how many characters per stanza, right? You can rhyme it, you can count the beat, right? You can control that, but each individual characters, like you cannot really end up with an even text poem. But Chinese can. Chinese have 5 character poems, like only 5 characters per stanza or line, or 7. So 7 is more popular because 7 can pack in more messages. So 俯首甘为孺子牛 came from this one poem written by Lu Xun. And it's well known in China. When I grew up, 俯首甘为孺子牛 definitely in a textbook. So this is every Chinese kids were taught. And we all know what the context, what's the meaning, and of course, it's the context reinterpreted, repackaged to Chinese kids. Okay, here we go. 俯首 bend head. For the interest of time, I'm not going to go deep into that, but this is a visual head, and this is your head again, and your bending head in escape. So that's 俯首 bend head. 甘为, I translate it as rather be, but it's a little bit extension because language and language do not correspond like exactly. So this is a little bit stretch. 甘, you have this mouse symbol. So mouse could be in contemporary Chinese mouse symbol, it's simply a rectangle, right? A box. But in ancient Chinese, there's this fine detail of up tilted corners of the mouth. It's like everybody's smiling, smiley face mouth in Chinese throughout history. And then the mouth symbol, something hold inside the mouth. Okay, ancient Chinese regard this things constantly held within the mouth as something sweet, something pleasant, something you like to chew on, basically. So that's sweet. Okay, something hold in mouth for a long time, that further implied as that's something sweet, something, sweet among all the flavors, right? Probably is the most preferred flavor. It's a little bit decadent, right? You have that sweet flavor in the mouth for a long time. And that holding sign eventually become this sweet. So if something is sweet, like you would prefer to do it, you would rather to do it, right? So that's the kind of a little bit logic jump from a taste to a behavior, because this taste is so good. I'm not sure if it's addictive to that level yet, but at least that's something you prefer, right? Of all the other taste or no taste. So that's the preferred state of taste. So that becomes rather means you choose to do that, right? And B, came from this farming sign, this 3-finger hand kind of looking like that on the top. That means it's handled, it's controlled. But the light-handed is not heavy-handed with like 3-finger or 5-finger. These are the side view 3-finger hand, and then this is kind of a device, especially this looking thing. It's some, I imagine, some metal piece that's durable, that can raking through the land to get it ready to farm. And these are the result of pulling that whole thing through the ground. So that's the farming, getting the land ready for the new year. And that activity probably is the beginning or the onset of the farming cycle for that year. And that was used as do something or achieve something, and eventually further extracted as be, like just be, or do, I guess. Rather, wait, maybe can be do, but because in English we have 孺子牛, if this is, you want to be, you would rather be something or somebody, some type of object. In this case is ox. If you rather be ox, you cannot do ox, right? I mean, I guess in contemporary Chinese you can, right? In English, contemporary English, we even have you do you, right? So when you, this person as a object, you even can use do on it. That means you behave your way, right? That's you do you mean. But I guess over here, I can translate that in that context of English use, I can translate as do, like you rather do an ox. But grammatically correctly, it would be better to be, you would rather be an ox, right? So I translate as be, but it does actually came from the Chinese do, the farming activity of setting the ground. Okay, 孺子牛. You see this sign and this sign? They are the same sign, right? And this simply means the baby, big-headed, with one torso without legs yet. So that means the baby, before they can walk, they are in a bundle. And then they only have their expressions of arms reaching out, kind of pick me up, right? So that's baby. 子 eventually means extended to baby age. Like even if they can walk, they're still children, they're still considered like non-farm hand. Well, actually, they hang out a lot with ox, and they don't do farming activity like this, labor-intensive stuff, but they can spend time with ox to kind of herd ox a little bit, to feed it, to spend time with their major farming animal. So that's what children can do. So eventually this becomes child, singular or plural. Chinese doesn't distinguish numbers. So 子 is just child, but it came from this bundled baby image. And so here you can guess there's something related to babies, right? And on the right side, we have the rainy sign, okay? Horizontal line is the heaven or the sky. This arch means the space below the sky, right? It's a spacer. And then this pointing down vertical line means, okay, there's a connection from the top line, the heaven, the sky, down to the ground level. So there is this connector in between. And then we have this raindrops, visual depiction of how the rain works, basically. It's from the sky, going to the ground, and within this big space, raindrops like that. It's our rain. And the bottom is a depiction of this section of the mouth, a man's mouth, because these are the beard. A few episodes ago, I talked about, and I show you the visual of how ancient man, popular beard style that got this. Okay, so this part, this is the tip of the nose. Okay, things are out of proportions. You cannot think, oh, the ring, and then the tip of the nose, this. Okay, this vertical line is this part. So this is the tip of the nose, this vertical line, and then you have beard coming out of there. So Chinese men back then wear beard like this, kind of drapey beard. And then on the chin. They have beard like that. So that's the Chinese beard style back then. So I mean, what's going on? Why the beard style over here? Okay, this it sounds like from the beard style eventually got abstracted to serve a function in language to be a connector word. So in English, I can think of the corresponding of English we have on the one hand, right? So you're following the logic and you know there is definitely on the other hand coming up, right? That's kind of a, you are, language prepare us to listeners to tune in to when you hear it on the one hand, and you know there's a second part to it, right? Similarly, Chinese, we use beard sign. We don't use it in the same kind of structure like we say otherwise, because this is just one character. We cannot split it into two, but it serves the function just like that. It's like we talk about a message A, and then we have this there. And then, you know, there is a certain logic continuation over there. So you're talking about one side of things, and then and then a second side of this. So this connector word can be both and but. It depends on A and B. Are they complementary or they are opposing each other? Are they contradictory or complementary, basically? So would be either and or but. It serves as this connection of logic of two ideas. So, okay, what do you mean? Raining and or but, this connector. Okay. This actually, the whole thing, the rain on top of this beard image is it means waiting. Originally, it means wait out the rain. When it rains, you cannot go anywhere. You have to stay indoor or stay in a shade, shelter, right? That's this waiting out the rain, this here, I visualize it as if it's a timer or spin, you know, on your computer screen to mean, okay, you're waiting, things are loading, things are not happening yet. You're just pausing over there to wait things to happen because it's raining. So this means a continuation of and, something like that, right? That's how I understand this. So this waiting out the rain means pausing, eventually get abstracted into needing or necessity. We often say 需 and 要, pair them together. 需要 means you need to. So Chinese need actually came from this waiting out the rain, because you cannot do anything when it's raining. It's your pausing time. So this waiting out becomes a necessity of, like, there's a need to pause. There's a need, like you have a very legit reason to not go to do farm work because it's raining right now. So that's the kind of necessity, like you're needed. Basically, you have no other choice almost. So that becomes the necessity. So here, necessity and baby, we can interpret it as baby need care, right? Babies, they are not self-sustained. They need to have external care. TCL, right? Basically or TLC, to care for them. So this baby needing, I translate it as suckling because they are babies who are still being breastfed at that age group, because they cannot eat on their own yet. So they have to kind of, their lifeline is dependent on the mother at a time. So that's the suckling. That's baby in need. That's the suckling. That's one version. The other version of explanation is this right side served as the sound maker, and this with baby together, you see it sounds like a ru, and ru in Chinese breastfeeding, this breast character sound like ru. So ru sound similarly to 如, and that again implies it's a suckling stage of the baby. And I guess this is a kind of like a euphemism if they switch out the character, but it has similar sound, not using the original character, because 乳 breast, I mean, scholars they don't want to put such a probably ancient times such a trigger word to men, right? So they don't want to put that on their text, so they choose a similar sound. So you can kind of guess, you can read behind the lines. Actually, in this case, it's listen behind the lines. You say 乳, and then you flex, do the connection to 乳. That means it's suckling. Both are possible, right? One is carryover from a sound. It's kind of euphemism by sound to breast, means suckling, or this baby in need. They are captured by the brain. Basically, they have to wait. They have this need to be filled, and that's also kind of, you can deduct to suckling conclusion either way. And baby, we have the ox, is simply super simplification of this animal. We just have horizontal vertical line, kind of give you the framework of that animal, kind of a spatial sense, and then place this signature look of the ox, of the horns, almost realistically of the horns, right? It looks realistic. And this horn placed over this spacer, or this space, it's a two-dimensional, and probably, I mean, it's a whole thing is 2D. You cannot really depict it 3D, but it's a 3D object in our physical world and captured in this 3D spatial sense. And then this ox, this signature feature of the ox placed over there to give you a sense of where it's located. And so that way, when it becomes so abstract, just by looking at the horn and the placement of it, it's kind of on top of the head, right? You can easily, I mean, just by looking at this character once, you would remember it as an ox depiction in Chinese character. This one is more abstract, like it's not easy way to tell this actually means ox. You have to memorize through drills. But over here, without the drilling, just once, I bet you can remember this is ox. Okay, so 俯首甘为孺子牛. Okay, I'm getting tired, I guess. Simply means to sacrifice. That's a elaborate literary way to say, I would rather bend my head and just be a suckling ox, be a baby ox, basically. That's the sacrifice. That means you kind of give up your pride, you give up all your defense system, be a very vulnerable baby, and you would rather be that. And the context for this is this 孺子牛, it's so harmless, so defenseless figure that this author Lu Xun wrote in this poem in the context of after the second line of the first line. So not really working my language today. 横眉冷对千夫指 is the previous line. So that's the context, and it forms a contrast. So 横眉冷对 means your eyebrows are really flattened out and your really serious face, and kind of like this, right? 横眉. Okay, 横眉冷对, the temperature is cold, like your attitude, your mood, your treatment of the opponent is cold, and 千夫指 means the enemy. So to the enemy, you show your flattened brow and cold attitude. Okay, that's the pretext. And then 俯首甘为, so you would rather bend your head and be this defenseless baby ox. And this defenseless baby ox in the context of you show your aggressiveness, right? Or hatred toward the enemy, but you show your vulnerability to the people. This then becomes the must learn phrase in Chinese. All the Chinese students learn that. And you notice the author was born kind of straddle the century, 19th century and 20th century. So he actually straddled the era of old China, ruled by the Qing dynasty, still got an emperor back then. And then the emperor, the dynasty were overthrown in 1911, 1911. That's the critical year in Chinese history. That's when the end of the imperial system of a ruling, hierarchical ruling by the royalties in China, the emperor, and then they were overthrown, and then the new world come in. And of course, there were this chaotic time when the leader was thrown, who will be the next leader, what's the organization of the society would be. So that's an interesting, very dynamic era in China, early 20th century. So he straddled both era of the old China and the new China in terms of the societal organization, and also the agricultural versus industrial. You can see his outfit is still in traditional Chinese outfit. It's this long gown. That's the outfit for the literature man, educated people. They don't need to do farm work. So long gown. Even, in today's world, we probably see that as a transgender costume almost, right? What men wear long gown? Men are trousers, are pants wearers. But back then, Chinese men, literature men, they don't need to do farm work. They probably go to office or something, go to public gatherings and all that, be societal, influential figure back then. But their costumes are these long gowns. And you can see the knot, there's no zipper or button, that's all Western stuff. But Chinese way is to knot up sideways. And so that's our clothing feature, at least for men, for some women as well. So that's the closure. You can see from the costume that he came from the past era, still old outfit. And then in contemporary, so the language-wise, that's a transitioning time as well. So of this old style of Chinese expressions, kind of formulated in this way, 7 characters made up for a poem. People speak in this highly formulated kind of, you have to be really educated to decode the message over there. To contemporary Chinese, more like a contemporary Chinese, that is more colloquial. You form your language not in this heavily formulated 7-character or 5-character poetic way. You can just plainly lay out your ideas, just like English, right? So he transit from the old world to the new world, and he started to use the language and become part of this language evolution of creation. And this is one of the most famous lines from his old format Chinese, that's 7-character, and have this, enemy versus people mentality, at least that's a repackaged message, right? To, Chinese kids were taught at school to hate your enemy, just like what this great author of the early 20th century taught us, to hate the enemy, but to sacrifice yourself, to show your vulnerability, like a baby ox, to sacrifice to your people. So that's what were drilled into the minds of generations, probably, for a few decades. This were in the textbook. Okay, crashing into the concept of thinking by one more today with Sophie. See you another day.